This stream is for entertainment purposes. The opinions expressed by the participants might be exaggerated for comedic effect. Harsh language can be used. Thought-provoking or controversial topics may be discussed.
Hello and welcome to Terra of Your Skin. It's been a while since I got one. It's been especially a long time since I got Rick on. So thank you for joining me on that stream, Rick. I wanted to have you on for this topic, and actually, it's a topic that Phil proposed. So thank you, Phil, for that as well, and thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
About the push, when to push and when not to push, because I think on that side, me and Rick we have a different style. Let's just say that, right? And I think it's going to be interesting to talk about that. But before we go into that, maybe Rick, do you want to explain what we mean by a push?
A push is it could be an event, it can be an NPC. It's an interjection by the GM in order to create some form of pressure, or to create some sort of tension, or to change the situation around a little bit. It's just make something a little bit more interesting, and yeah, that's what a push is. You want me to go elaborate a little bit more detail?
We definitely will.
Yeah, we will. We don't have to go now, but we will at some point.
I'll leave it to that, and then we'll go into detail a little bit more about it as well. But yeah, that's basically it. Is the GM bringing in an event? And it can also include players. Players can bring in pushes as well too. I think that should be a co-creative thing as well.
That's interesting. Go ahead, Phil.
Well, before we get into crack that onion,
yeah,
I don't know if that's a phrase. That's an American phrase. You guys probably haven't heard it. But I just want to say, like, when I started the 4D role-playing experience, and Rick was like giving me my training session, he was very much advocating for the push style. And when I did my werewolf game, he was like, "You probably could have done a couple pushes here," and I was like, "Okay, yeah." So, and I think he was right. And then Rick kind of went on a rock and roll tour or something. I don't know what happened, but then he decided to go tour with Bruce Springsteen. I think that's what I heard. I don't know.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
And then, like, me and Max and Crispy played a lot of games together, and Max is very much a let's let it see what happens. He is a if you know what kind of movies he likes, he's not interested in the quick action. He wants that simmering dialogue and the
right,
the slow atmospheric tone and mood, I would say. So it's a very different style of game than maybe most people like. I don't know. What do you think?
It's going your trumpet. Thank you for the $5. Let me say hello to Zanlar as well, and Elf Hunter and Kingmaker.
Hello, the chat.
And my trumpet. Hello, the chat. Thank you for joining us.
It
sounds very French, and that's exactly what I was about to go. I think there is a cultural element to it. I think there's a thing. I love like those old like new wave French movies that are very slow, very talkative, very like little action, right? You're gonna have like one action scene in the movie, and it's just like gonna be like two guys running after each other in the street, and then one punching the other, and then they're gonna talk some more, and that's it, right? And then the movie ends. Or somebody got shot and then he died after one bullet on the street.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow. But I like those kind of movie, and I think like I think there's a question of style in that sense that I almost say like you could have a game that is more actiony. You're gonna require more push to get the thing moving, right? Oftentimes you're gonna put a push when the scene's dragging on and stuff like that. But I like sometimes dragging the scene on because I want to get like, for me, I'm after the emotion, right?
Mhm.
and I want to get all the emotional juice I can get from a scene. So I like, and when there's a tension build up, I want this tension to be able like to climb and rise, and and we don't know what's gonna happen, and nothing's happening, but it might, right? You only feel like, for me, that's something I love to experience, right?
Mhm.
Just those scenes, like in the Horizon, we're in the bar talking with the eel. Was it his name?
There was the eel. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. The
and then
guy and the guy, like everyone was dying around us. And the eel was
yes.
dying.
Well,
Yeah.
even before that, like, at some point, like there's this negotiation, right? And
Yeah.
like the first time we meet, and we don't know if we're gonna be an ally. We don't know if it's gonna be an enemy.
We don't know
But
if
we're
there's going to
just
be
there.
violence that breaks out.
We don't know if
in
it's
the
gonna be
room.
violence. Exactly, it's on the table, right?
Yeah.
It's right there. But we let it go, right? We let the scene resolve itself, and we live in this tension, right? And I love that. That's
Okay.
for me, like that's something like and I think sometimes, like, and I talk about that as well, like, there can be time when the GM make too much push.
Mhm.
I believe.
And even in that example, Crispy like pushes the scene because someone knocks on the door and it's a fish man.
Yeah.
Like that pops in and we all fight him and then we're all teamed up with the eel after that. Like it
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
And I don't think that was wrong, because also, like, sometimes, like, you could also drag a scene too much.
Mhm.
But I think, like, if this push didn't have come, right, at some point the version will have happened on its own. But now, like, with the fishmen coming in
Mhm.
and this fight and stuff like that, well, now we become ally. We are pushed in that direction, right? Where we could have, like, also left this room without resolving if we're gonna be ally or enemy and stuff like that. And then, like, that would have led to a different scene, stuff like that. It's a much slower paced game, which doesn't bother me at all.
I will say that in that specific example, I think we had a pretty good chance to resolve whether or not this guy was the bad guy we were looking for. Like we were able to do that without being like force fed it with a
Mhm.
plot instrument, was a plot point.
Yeah.
So that's good. Is that the best time to push, Rick, or what do you think is the best time to push?
It depends. It depends on the group. It depends on the players. Like Max was saying, he prefers like a little bit more of a slower paced style in order to kind of gear up that emotional kind of struggle that may occur when heads start butting and stuff like that with characters. But it depends on the players too, because some players might want this to be more action, so they
Yeah.
may advocate in their scene for more action too. And that's where players, if I used to be against all this co-creation stuff. Just to put that out there, everybody. I used to be a non-co-creation kind of guy, but stuff like playing with Numenera, the Cipher system, it really changed my whole perspective, and it kind of equated things to video games too, because you see these self-brought in realizations of the character, like the mysterious gunman in like Fallout. You have that player interjection that comes in from his past, from a character that is brought in. It's not the game master bringing this into fruition. This is a character choice from a feat that you made, right? And it's brought in. And yeah, so it's borrowing from that kind of stuff, right? So now you'll have players that will want more action, some will want more of the intensity first. So you kind of have to read the room, man. You got to read the room.
Yeah, and that's also like what you say there, right? it depends on the type of player. Some players gonna have like different, like some player gonna have a preference for more actiony game. Some player gonna, like me, gonna have like the slow pace, the slow burn, right? But I would even add, it depends on the game. It depends on the session. It depends on the campaign. Depends on the team, the tone, right? When we do the dungeon delve with Korvac and Grilch and what was your elf, Rick? I forgot his name. Was it Alan? No.
Your elven.
The elven one. Man, I can't remember. Oh man, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But like in that game, right? Due to the character I was playing, I did like at some point like oh we're gonna get in there, like I just go start bashing the door, right, with my sword or whatever. Just like I start busting the door, and like, so I think there's also like and if we play a game like the Call of Cthulhu game we did, Rick, long stretch of that game, when it's just like at the table, chatting,
you guys,
getting to know each other, having like this push-pull between the character about like, oh, okay, we all want something. We don't want to show or taint. We don't want to expose like what we're after, what we got, what we think, on what side we fall, right? Because we all try to get one up. So there's also that thing, right? It's also like this kind of like,
you guys carried that on for quite some time, and I was letting you guys simmer. I know you like that kind of stuff, so
yeah,
I was letting you guys simmer. I know Crispy can delve real deep into his characters. So when I decided to put a push onto that was kind of like, oh, suddenly we have the pursuing boat, the tug coming from behind, in the middle of the night, the moonlit kind of, aspect, crocodiles swimming. You're kind of setting up the scene for more intensity. We got crocodiles, we have ship, what more, pursuit is about to happen, somebody up on top of the ship doing some sort of, thing going on. It just, now the characters are like amped from confrontation, now amped to do something different now.
And I think the variation in pace can be good as well.
Yeah,
in a game, and I think like it's good also if we're all on the same page. And I think one game that we screwed up on the intensity was the Hell game, the Wild Hell.
I agree. The game was meant to be like a slow paced game with like time skips and stuff, but it got kind of hijacked into this like jungle action adventure, which was kind of cool. I thought it was kind of fun, like having those guys do that. But I don't know. I don't know why it left a sour taste in my mouth.
And like, and also like there was this a big part of the game, like when those guys say, "Oh, we're gonna go after the camp and attack them," and stuff like that, and like I'm in my mindset, my character, and I said like, that's a fucking stupid idea. I'm just gonna fucking stay back, right? And I was into this like slow pace, and like this dragon creature around, right? And I'm just hiding. Yeah.
And I thought you played that well. I mean, we all had our own goals, for characters. But I'm curious, Phil, were you set up for an expectation on how you thought the layout of how this was going to go?
Yes.
And then it didn't come up to your expectations, but it was something totally different. So.
I did one of my car videos about it, but basically it was a lesson to me about social contract, about how you should discuss tone and stuff like that. Session 0. If there's something you want to explore as a game master or as a character, I guess. But and it ended up being a game that I wasn't trying to play, but I guess I don't know. It's up to the characters, and that's kind of what I was gonna say is like I know you said pacing or a player can push, and I think that is a key thing about pushes is that I consider them to be a GM tool, because when a player pushes, it's just proactive,
Yes.
goal-driven player. I don't think they're gonna. They can't really like spawn conflict outside of like a temporary thing, like when I did on the travel game. I was like, oh, debris.
Right. That's totally awesome.
I guess
I
that
was
could be
right
considered
into
push.
that. Yeah. Yeah. You created your own push.
Yeah.
I am, as a game master, I'm totally open for.
Yeah, but
players
it's just
to
something
add
that
more
like
tension.
I wasn't trying to push the action. I was just like seeing it in my head.
Yeah, that's what I want. You know,
So,
that's the thing that I think a lot of game masters are missing is you're not trying to evoke your image to the player's head. You're trying to evoke an image to the player's head and let him get immersed into it and let him convey some of the things that he's seeing to you. And it gives you more, more things to work with. You're just listening to your player, and it's great because then you get your adventure played out, how you're envisioning it in your imagination. I think that's key.
I think that the tone of that game, though, I mean, if there's not debris in space right now, that would be really unusual.
Yeah.
And I guess my point is, if your characters aren't going to be proactively trying to push their goals because that's the type of characters they are, not because they're crap role players, but because they're like characters that just want to relax. It's like, I just want to go have dinner with my wife or something like that. Then in that case, I would say the push is more appropriate than like, we need to go in the dungeon and get the gold from the dungeon or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like what you're bringing there, like Phil, and I agree with you. I think for me, like when I hear push, for me that sounds more like a GM tool, because like you said, otherwise just like you being your character and being proactive, right? And that's also the thing, like why I don't like as a GM giving too much push, because like I want to leave the chance for the player to have the character be proactive and pursue their own goal, right? And at their own pace, in a sense, right? And sometimes, like when I'm a player, sometimes I do have like, sometimes I have a plan. I'm going somewhere, right? I'm gonna be proactive, but I want to take a little bit of time before getting there. I don't want to rush there because that's not the character I'm playing, right? So maybe I'm saying, you know what, I'm gonna do this, but like I'm kind of like thinking in my head, right? Just like, yeah, I wanna do that, but I don't want to rush it. So I'm gonna take a few turns to get there, right? Because I have other thing to establish before I leave, before I fucking jump off the ship or whatever I'm gonna do, right? I have something to establish, something to say, some like a power move to make or whatever, right? Just like I have some other thing to resolve before I want to do that, but I want to do that. And sometimes like if there's a push that come in before, right, then I don't get to do what I want to do, right? I don't like I want to set up something. Yeah, I want and that happened in life as well.
Kind of
right?
good, yeah.
Well, it happened in life, but sometimes, yes. I'm not saying like, oh, you should never mess up my plan, because that happened in life sometimes too, right? Like you're in a,
like all of your crew will be murdered.
But I think it's cool that you want to go through your plan, where a lot of game masters will go ahead and hand wave that whole adventure that you could have had, going through the ship and going through, making sure everything was set up. He could have erased that with just a roll, and then you would have been.
Yeah. Okay, you guys are in the escape pod.
Like, yeah.
I think and you're bringing up like basically the impetus of this. The reason I want to talk about it is because of that first Daggerheart session. It felt like I feel like everyone kind of questioned whether or not it was fast enough, or did we do enough stuff in this session? I don't know. It felt like that was a question on a couple people's minds. It was in the comment section. They were like, did this feel like a good paced game? I was like,
how long was your session in total in that one?
I think we're
what was-
doing 2-hour sessions pretty regularly.
Yeah, about 2
and
hours.
But it was like-
how many combats did you have in that?
Well,
One.
0.
Just,
No, we
just
had
one.
the-
Oh, one.
wolf,
Yeah, the wolf.
yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
Basically,
It
one
was-
round of combat.
half a round.
Yeah, that I didn't partook in.
You yelled.
I would say
Yep.
for a first for the session one, that's kind of typical with all, even with the 2D 1D stuff.
Yeah.
But of course, their sessions are like 8 hours long. But in your
Yeah, but-
in your 2-hour session, having that accomplished.
If I could just make this one point, I think this is what my point is. It's like I feel like that session is very much an act one. So like
Yeah.
it sets up the setting, it sets up the issue that's going to happen, and it
Yeah.
sets up like the relationships between the characters. It's very much an act one thing, and then session 2 is the act 2. Like, and there's like a boom climax right at the end of act 2. We're gonna have that, and then maybe an act 3, maybe a false end.
But also,
Not
like those
saying
are,
Right.
that it's gotta be the exact story structure, but you have a false end, and then you have the end. You know,
those slower session too, especially in the first session, right? And
Yeah.
but also like sometimes you can have like a slower session, but like they're also the occasion to learn about the characters a lot, right? Because like you get to see the little habits, you get to see how they interact among each other, with
Exactly.
other, right? The negotiation with the Granite Arms
Mhm.
and shit like that, or like with the interaction with the mayor, right? And
Mhm.
everybody like get into this place with a different attitude, this very opulent place, right? So we get to see that, and I think that's good because like if you look at the 2D game, right? They're just gonna tell you stuff about the character. Oh, they're gonna do the first session and say, "Oh, this is my character, and he's like that, and he believes this and this and that, and he's
Mhm.
very obsessed with honor." And then you see none of it in play
Yeah.
because they just play like to win the game. Like we don't do those introduction of the character, but we do the show don't tell, right? Basically,
Mhm.
like
a lot of work is
Exactly.
done in session 0 for that too. But my point in bringing that up is that I would say a push is less appropriate in an act 1 style setting, unless you really need to get that unless you're just pushing the inciting incident or pushing the thing. You know what I mean? Like if you're
Yeah.
starting act 2 with a push, that's called the story. I wouldn't call that a push, but
I
Well,
like to put a push at the end if it's kind of more of a kind of a slow, where everybody's introducing each other's characters to each other and building
Mhm.
upon that. Then I'll usually put the push at the end, which is
Right.
just to kind of amp things up, saying, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do?" And then you have that time at the end of the
Right.
session.
that's the end of act 1, right?
Yep, and then you're ready for the next one.
And- I'm not saying create a story, obviously, but
Yeah.
the GM, like if the GM has the 3-act structure in his brain and he's using pushes, I mean, it's like built in. There's going to be a push right at the end of Act 1, and
Yeah.
it's going to start some shit, and then we're off to the races.
but like in this Dagger Art game, right?
Yep.
You could have like had a push. You could have had a push in the mayor office, for example, right?
Mhm.
You talk to the mayor, and at some point, like maybe a catboy servant, right, or like come bursting in the room, and something happens. Something is dead. Like something from the mine is coming on the village or whatever,
Mhm.
and then we go straight to the action. You could have done that.
Sure.
We could have had time. We could have had time to explore our character and present them a bit, and then like go straight to the action. We would have missed on the scene in the tavern with Kingmaker and the scene with Granite Arm.
Yeah, you
And
wouldn't
other-
have had any kind of dwarf setup.
Yeah.
Basically, would have just bypassed the dwarfs at that point.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that's good,
which would have been like, in a sense regrettable
Yeah.
because those were a good scene, but it would have been replaced by other thing that could have been like as good or better, maybe, or maybe a
Yeah.
little bit worse. But it doesn't, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know what you don't know what you didn't get, right? So like I don't think that would have been like a wrong time to push.
Mhm.
It would have been fine. It would have been like appropriate and stuff like that. It would have been like
But do you think that would have, in the 3-act structure, cut Act 1 short and then moved it right into the next? It's like, okay,
Yes.
now we're in conflicts. Now we're doing.
it would have cut Act 1 short, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
The problem I have with too much push is when there's always something happening and you never get to get resolution on something.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever hit too much push?
Yes.
What particular example?
One push that I didn't appreciate, and I'm like, Crispy's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh, yes.
play Crispy too.
Yeah. Yeah. One push that I think was in the Horizon. A few times there were like there's a few times there was too much push in the Horizon, but one that bothers me is in New Amsterdam when there's
That's what I was
this
thinking.
fish people kind of called, and it just fucking killed my mate. And now I can make the whole thing personal and would take revenge on those guys. And I'm trying to get in situation for that. But then there's an invasion that happened, and I have to fucking leave this planet. And I don't get my resolution. So
Forgot about that.
Hmm?
I
Yeah.
said I forgot about that, but I was dead, so
well, yeah, you were in that session.
I wasn't even in that session. I was
Yeah.
thinking about the casino. But I don't really remember. I can't think of any. It's like when there's a bunch of pushes, it just feels like a more action-packed game.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah, it's coming from all sides.
you can't really fault the
Yeah.
world, you know.
But there's also like it's not only like the quantity of push, there's also a quality of push, I guess, right?
Right.
Because if you do a push that the player got their goals, and that's something I'm talking about. And when the players have their goals and they're actually working toward their goals, right? Let them cook. Let them like take the time that they want, as long as they're still progressing toward a goal, right? And if you want to add a push because you think things are dragging or whatever, like either make something that's going to be like self-contained and resolve quickly, and then they can go back to their goal, or make something that push them in the direction of their goal, in a sense, right? Or against their goal, right? Like not necessarily in the direction, but like in the axis, I guess.
I would say maybe Rick, correct me if I'm wrong here, but a push is generally used if the tempo has like gone away, right? It's not meant to just be like a complication. Like if someone's pushing their goal, you don't throw a push at them, but you might throw it's complication into their stuff.
I don't do it intentionally to wreck somebody's plan. That's the thing. You definitely don't want to do that kind of thing, but you do want to make it so that there is some sort of pressure put on the player so that they have to make decisions, and in maybe in that particular situation, that's what you're trying to get going.
Yeah. I like the you have to make a bad choice moment.
Sometimes Adam had to make bad choices. You had to make bad choices in our Shadow of the Stars game. He just did them. It was great. It was good headbutting, and I stayed clear out of that. And when I decided to bring in a push, I didn't know which push I was going to bring in, but it was one that was going to break the ship, and that was it. Now I don't have to worry about the rest of the roster of the ship. And I was totally up in the air of what I was going to do there for some kind of push. I could have had aliens showed up. I could have had maybe another structure in front that was kind of reminiscent from our one of our previous Traveler games. I could have brought in something from one of our other games entirely, and I don't know what I could have done.
Was Zonalar? Did Zonalar kind of hijack the push a little because he was the?
No. I did have a plan for another crew on a ship.
Yeah.
That was an entire push on its own. But I didn't think it was going to be one that would involve a player. But I thought it was a perfect way to inject Zonalar's character into it. I don't usually plan any kind of, like, I'll have some ideas, dwindling through my head. It's more or less, what would be epic right now? Oh yeah, the front of the ship just comes right off. People are screaming, and now you're losing
Like
life
we're
support.
dangling.
Does it always have to be
That's
epic?
It depends. I'm in that kind of a situation. I wanted it to be kind of like a maybe a disaster movie kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
what I was.
That's something I was thinking. Is that I think pushes should also, or maybe this is another use of a push, or maybe it's a totally different term. I don't know, but something that reinforces tone, like in the Hell game, when you're describing, if let's say it happened the way I wanted, you're describing I have these goals, then I'm gonna throw shit at you while you're like making your shelter. I'm gonna like mess with you because it's supposed to be a huge struggle. Like that's the whole tone of the game. And then in Rick's case, I think the tone of our game is a little epic. I would say it's pretty epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so having these epic moments is he's just toning his pushes to be appropriate. You know what I mean?
If I want a gunfight, I want it to be a Tarantino type thing where people's hands are getting blown off, and you have this kind of thing going on. And
do you think that a push should be unignorable, or should it be ignorable, or should it be like sometime one, sometime the other? Like, should the player be able to ignore, like sometimes like this? Oh, something's happening that's gonna drive the action forward, or you can just like decide, you know what, we're not gonna fucking deal with that, and then like maybe it's gonna have consequence down the line, but like something like the front of the ship break off, right? It's like whatever you were doing right now, I'm
too busy patching the hole right now.
Like exactly. Like now, like whatever you were working towards, now you have to take the sideline because like this epic thing happening, and now
there's
like
a power fluctuation in the air conditioning. I'm managing. I can't. Yeah. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, if you're worrying about saving your gerbils in stateroom X or whatever, you'd be the guy that would be trying to fix that air conditioning unit, in life support, other than worrying about part of your ship coming apart. Who knows? That's your character, and I fully expect all my players to be dismissive, perhaps, of maybe heeding a warning or something like that, or not dealing with something. Which was exactly what happened in our Castles and Crusades game.
I was about to talk about that.
Which is a lot of a lot of things are building up in the background, and those are your build-up pushes that you've collected. You're writing. I'm always writing all these things down. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do, or you opened this and this escaped, and I'm keeping track of all these things.
Like for me, and it's a shame we never got to explore that, but in the Castle and Crusade, there might have been one push too many.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Like we just came out of this dungeon, we saved like those people, and like we released something evil in the process that we decided to pretend didn't happen. Then on the way back there was those center, then the Griffin, then Servant, right? For me, like the game would have been a bit tighter. Like I would probably cut the centaurs.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Or the Griffin, because at some point it just feel like, or you could have left it like that. But at some point, like just like, oh, why all those things are happening? Why, like oh, those centers are there, and that's new thing. They're not supposed to be there, so that's strange. That's something to investigate. And then this Griffin is there, which is strange, and something to be like when the world, like, there's all those like strange thing happening. If they're not connected somehow, which they could, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. If we have like played longer and like we could have figured out like a reason that why all those things are happening,
Yeah.
and then it wouldn't be a problem. But just in itself like that, no, I feel like a lot of weird thing happening at once. That make it a bit like, what's happening in the world, right? We need to figure that out now, right? Just like but
Yeah. Well, of course, we were pretty early in our years of trying this 4D, and of course, we were never perfect, and we still aren't. I mean, we're still, cracking the code here of this whole thing, right? And I'm trying to collate as much notes and information as I possibly can on my the insight that I gather from everybody here and myself. Every time I put together a game.
No, that's like I said. That's why we have those talk, right? We're trying to improve ourselves and to figure out and again, that's also my opinion. Like, it doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's
There's
your
also a matter of
flavor. It's
taste.
your flavor
Exactly.
of what you want,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
When you have, I mean, that game went for like 8 sessions or something, right? Something like that. Or am I exaggerating?
What
here?
the Castles and Crusades one?
Yeah.
It was at least 8, no? Maybe
Yeah,
more.
we had about, I think we had about 5 or 6 sessions.
Or no more than that?
Well, something like that.
I don't know.
So y'all kind of had like the sandbox style going, and
yeah.
if you're gonna be sandboxing and you're not dealing with things and it's supposed to be simulation-y, I can't fault the GM for introducing things you're not taking care of. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but we also had things that we wanted to care of, like, and at some point, like, we had like, and that was good because it was actually like scenes I really like. When we had to discuss, okay, now we're like this guy we want to deal with that is an asshole, like servant, and then this, like I fucking remember him, right?
Those are good. Those are good villains if you still remember them, right?
Yeah. But he want us to work he want us to work for him. So can we work for him and then get rid of him? And then like, but also like, can we just like not work for him and go do this thing in this village that we want to do? And then like this, but our buddy just got eaten by this griffin, and now servant want to deal with the griffin. So that's also like, well, we also kind of motivated for that. Like, there's all those choice to make. And for me, that was like, and we knew we couldn't do everything.
Right.
We had, and something would have to be left. So that was interesting, right? Like one thing that maybe one thing that would have satisfied me if those centaurs were just normal, like they were just there, that's their territory and we know that and stuff like that, right? Just like, and people in the world, that's, be careful, it's centaur territory over there, right? Then when you cross them and you can decide to go deal with them and try to chase them later on if they become aggressive. But then it's not something weird happening in the world that require investigation. It's just like the state of the world, right? So there's also this thing, right? It's also like all things are presented.
Yeah, okay. So it was like an event. It wasn't just like a...
Yes. It wasn't like just the state of the world.
I gotcha. I could see a difference there.
Quantum centaur theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Should we address the chat? I'm not even looking at the chat.
Yes, I wanted to address the chat, but like I also don't want to interrupt people when good points are being made. Elfanter was saying that he thinks is more in my style, so obviously I'm gonna put that on screen, right? But he said that said, I might start my next game off with a bang, and I think that's a good way. Also, like that's an interesting way to challenge yourself as well, right? Just like having those when you lean in one style, like once in a while, try to do something different. I think that's a good habit. Yeah, and also hello to Miles Bad 1. Finally cut the live vid. I'm glad you did.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
I like the logo.
Yeah.
Yes, Serenity. Yeah. So Lars to spread those leg and push. So you want to do like the
Jeez.
goatsy. Remember goatsy?
It didn't say spread your ass.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
God.
Anyways,
Maris Bassett, thank you kindly. I've been slowing moving several of my game towards something closer to 40. I'm like to hear it, but I'm finding my fellow player hesitant. Oh,
Yeah, it could. It's probably easier to approach new players that have never played. You know, that's what I'm
Is it?
finding.
I don't
Yeah,
know. But also
I
if you
find
wanna
I've-
play with like a. If you play
I
with your
got-
friend, like he's talking about like a face-to-face group in 40 mode and see how it goes. Alien Covenant, Chariot of the Gods.
I think the where you are, what you're doing, what you're saying, slot.
Yeah.
yeah,
Start
it-
there and build on from there.
yeah. Just as long as you adhere to that, all your players are adhering to the I. They're speaking from their point of view. I approach this. I do. You know.
In my in my video that I made like for the in character role play challenge, right? I think I present kind of the concept in a simplified way that can be
Yeah.
understood by people.
Definitely
This video,
consumable.
yeah, it's gonna and yeah, it's like less than 5 minutes. It's gonna play at the end of the stream. But if you don't watch to the end, you can find it on my channel if you go look for the in character role play challenge. And you can go like with the ADHD type editing.
That's one of those good necessary videos we should do more of.
Yeah. Oh, Zonar said dragon creature was super cool. Oh, let's go. I want to talk about that again. Would this dragon creature have been considered a push in your mind, Phil?
What dragon creature are we talking about?
In
right
the L game.
now?
Hell, sorry.
No, it wasn't a push. It was me having pity on you because you're just sitting alone. I was like, I guess it's a push in a way that gives you something to do. You're like, okay, I'm going to hide in this rain for the next 10 turns.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, stuff's flying around here or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Is that a push?
I would use it like sometimes a push needs to serve a purpose, like eliminating an NPC. Maybe you didn't have enough NPCs.
Well, all this was doing was
it could have been
exposition.
could have been a great
exposition for the setting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I could have like
I
decided
was
to
just using
interact
it.
with that thing for some reason, right?
I mean, like, I'm giving you a more reason not to move, really.
Yeah.
So if anything, it's like the opposite of a push. Like,
Yeah.
stay put and watch this movie.
Well, it is putting a pressure on us, though. You know, we're being more wary, more alert, trying to save our skins from something eating our faces off.
And also,
We-
we know that after the session, like in the 5 years later game,
Yeah, you lost your arm or something.
I
forget
lost
what
my
we just-
arm and tame one of those things.
That's right. You ride one. in
Yeah,
5
I
years.
ride one with one arm less. If you didn't see the Wild Elf 5 years later game,
Yeah, which is coming soon. It's a
Coming
preview too.
easy.
yeah,
It'll
something we
well,
established.
oh, we should do that as the next one. Rick has
Yeah,
has been a hostage, being a doctor or something.
yeah,
Weren't you
being a doctor on stage
Yeah.
for 5 years.
Yeah, barbarians. Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd be done with that. Yeah. So now the player pushes for his goal, which gives GM opportunity to bring up obstacles, which are technically pushes.
I don't know if I'd call an obstacle a push. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm saying.
I say any event would be a push. It could be a puzzle, like could be a chest, that you maybe the character approaches. He touches something on it, it activates something. It's a temptation. It's gearing up to some character's desires to want to know what's inside. You know, these are all pushes.
Let's define pushes again, so that
for me, like because for me a push is something that would come kind of like out of left field, right? Or is that the expression?
Yeah,
it can, yeah, out of left field.
If it's something that is just like an organic consequence of what the character is doing, character, PCs or NPCs, right? If it's just an organic consequence of the thing, like that's not a push. That's just like people pursuing their own goal, no?
reaction. Yeah, it's just a regular reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I view everything that I do as a GM that isn't related to embodying an NPC or figuring out what a description is for somebody in their vicinity, or figuring out what the dice chances are. The only other thing that I would be doing is a push.
Okay.
Basically,
If I'm trying to break in a vault of some NPCs, right, and some guy that I don't like, and I'm trying to break into his vault, and then there's some trap there. Is that like those trap? You as a GM putting those trap there, you're basically role playing this NPC, right? Because like the NPC decided to put those trap there,
right?
So that's like consequence of like just then like even if the NPC is not in the scene, it's something you did in the past, right? That you add as a GM,
right? And and I view it that way. I view things in the point of view of the construct. The trap. I have to, because it is in order to gear my mind into talking in the proper tense all the time, or describing in the proper tense. So I describe things from the point of view of the chest, or of the room, basically, or from the torchlight. Or I have to describe things that way. I've kind of geared. I've been gearing my brain that way quite a bit. So. Yeah.
When I think of push, I think more that it is not something that's reactive. It is the GM inserting something that is separate from what's been going on as a way to insert some action, some tempo, or some tone. It's kind of how I feel about it. But I'm not the inventor.
I think it's cooler to have it related, though, to something that the players did, or that maybe it's something that the players know of, like personally. It's a friend of theirs or something.
I agree that's cooler when it's derived from consequence, or for something that's been already established or something like that. I think that's more interesting. Those events. I'm not completely like, oh no, like
the environment will do it on its own.
The environment, yes. So something like or like, let's say like, oh, we're like, if Kingmaker was in the tavern, right, with his dwarf and trying to find a guide, and while he's doing this chit chat, suddenly there's a brawl that erupt, right? I'm not opposed to that.
Right.
That's also something we could have decided to interact with or not, right? Just like this.
And if you have a good game master who's kind of keying in on things, maybe the dwarves look at the feats of strength being bravery. You could use that as kind of an example for the player to, show his, guff against, maybe he'll gain the respect of the dwarves this way. You can work that in. You got to expand your mind to work those things in right on the spot when a player says something, and you're like, oh, they're injecting this, and he's doing this. Oh,
yeah, it does. It does, and like everything you add, like say something about the world as well, right? Like it add texture and flavor to the world, and we figure out what the world is by interacting with it and exploring it and stuff like that. But if there was a brawl just happening in this tavern there, right, that would have come out of left field, and just like that's something that's unprompted, right? It's something that's just some random event that happened in the world, which is fine because those happen as well, right? Just like, but I guess for me, like, there's also like if it's too much, it become like a bit like, oh, again, something gets annoying.
Let me just sit in the back and wait for the thing to happen. Yeah.
I like this comment by Zonolar. He said it's not illegal to drive 40 miles per hour in a 70 miles per hour zone. Well, that's not quite true. 70 miles per hour is quite fast, and usually they're gonna have like minimum speed limit.
Yeah.
But the points still stand, right? But the player who want to go like 70 miles per hour would be mad upset for you holding up the road. Yeah.
He's talking meters per second, so that might be a little fast for me.
Oh, you think meter per second? Miles?
I don't know,
Miles
some
Yeah,
German
German. I
measurement.
don't know why he talks. He doesn't talk about like kilometer an hour, like a civilized person. But 40 kilometer an hour in a 70-kilometer zone, yeah, that's not
per
illegal.
second.
Going-
he
going
he
70
verified.
miles per second?
What?
70 miles per second in a 40 miles per second zone.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's quite fast.
It is quite fast.
Yeah, that's the thing too. What if the other side, right? If it's a 40-mile zone and you go like 70 miles, then the people living around and the other like
Yeah.
you know how it is on the
Yeah.
road, right? Everybody driving slower than me is an idiot. Everybody driving faster is a maniac.
But in reality, it's not going faster or slower. You're still going in the one action per turn economy and everybody's still doing their rounds.
Mhm.
So,
Hopefully.
You know,
Hopefully.
yeah. You wanna
I
make
think we
sure-
got to do round robin on our next game.
Yeah, we got to have like a.
We got to go back to put the training wheels back on for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's what happened when we were a long time without playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that's true, the one action per turn thing, but I guess it kind of comes down to, is that one action per turn something that the player is reacting to, or are they pushing the story? So the tempo from the GM kind of picks that out. I think based on the player, they'll want to either be driving or swerving out of the way from the fucking shit.
Right.
But I don't know.
The
That's a bit outside of
asteroids
like
flying at me. Fucking-
I think that's a bit of outside of the push, but like that would be annoying too. Like if I want to play a character that is like slow and methodical and like take times to develop
Mhm.
something and play with his people that he's talking to, right? We're in this negotiation, and I want to go to this push pull. I'm trying to get something, and I want to, I'm gonna use you and move you.
Yeah.
But the other character is always like shoot first and ask question later.
Mhm.
That's also would get frustrating.
But where's the fault in that situation?
The fault is that those two character
Yeah.
wouldn't work together.
So is a session 0 issue?
Yes.
Did you say? Yeah.
So you're essentially talking like a Terrence Hill character and John Wick together. John Wick is a man of action. Terrence Hill is the approach, smile, and be cocky for a little while with play with your enemy for a bit. Twist them
I guess-
around.
I like to play cocky character, right? I guess a few characters I played are kind of cocky. Maybe I should think about myself.
No, well, it's an expression. It's a you're checking out a dark portion of yourself that the cocky person, and you're letting it play. You're.
Oh, I'm cocky in real life.
Oh no, I mean like your inner cockiness is being able to be expressed.
Yeah.
It's just
But,
like
I feel like Max does a pretty good job expressing it.
yeah. But you want to express it, not feel inhibited to, you want to be the character, right? You're going to be that character. You're not going to have somebody say, you should not play that character.
They're not all cocky though. Like, Kaneko is not cocky. Well, he is in a sense, but like he's not like would I be cocky?
He's definitely got the I'm better than the peasants, even though I'm a peasant.
Yeah,
that's his one thing.
but he's not like fuck. What was it? he's not arrogant to the people, right?
Yeah.
He's like, he's not like a.
I agree with that.
And I guess that's the thing I have. But yeah, like, so I like, like, and sometimes that when I was thinking about, like, like, I want to do something with this character, but I need to take some turns because I want I want to humiliate this guy, but I need some build up, right? I need to bring him to a place where I'm gonna give my retort that's gonna make him sound like a fool, right? I like those kind of character.
I'm definitely inspired to play a total coward like Beta. I want to try to play that next time, I think.
That could be interesting, but like we always often say, like, you should play like heroic character, right? That's the thing.
Sorry.
That's the thing I wanted. Well, because because the total coward beta, they're not proactive character. They're being pushed around by the world, right?
Yeah, it needs to be pushed.
That's most, and that's something I want to talk about. Like, we often talk about, like, we should play the protagonist of those story, right? You play a character that is material to be a protagonist, and the difference when you have a protagonist in the story is that is pushing the story forward, is driving the plot forward, right? It's imposing his will on the world, in a sense, right? That's what makes an interesting character. You have those character, and we have that a lot in French literature. That's for some reason that's the type of character that the French people like to write about a lot. But those characters that are very human and very common in the real world, who do not impose their will on the world, they're just being pushed around. That's most people. That's fucking not killers. That's most fucking people, right?
Yeah. But I mean, you can session zero it.
Yeah.
Antagonist isn't that bad either. I mean, Luke Skywalker was the antagonist in Star Wars. He was the one trying to change. He was trying to just change the status quo, which was the Empire at the time.
Okay, so you're saying the Empire were the goodies?
You can't state that an antagonist is an evil guy or a good guy.
Protagonist, antagonist, they're both like kind of a heroic character in the sense that they impose their will on the world.
Yeah, in their own way.
What I'm talking about is like, you read like L'Étranger, like The Stranger by Camus, where it's just like this guy that things happen to him and he barely even react to it because he's so fucking detached from the world. Like, he's so like, that happened. Oh man, I killed an Arab because like I got stressed and
that's a good point.
Like the world life just happened and he's just like, they're reactive, right? It's just like he doesn't even like do anything, right? He killed an Arab in self-defense in a freak accident, right? The Arab like come attack him and he defend himself and he's not even trying to kill him, but the guy dies, right? And then you get a trial, and in the trial do like a character assassination, the fact that he didn't cry when his mother died. And now, like, they use that to prove that he's a cold-blooded, like, murderer and shit like that. And he's just sitting there and just like, well, I guess that's happening now, right? Just like, fucking take it.
It sounds like it's more like a book like Dune, where it's trying to express like, oh, this is what happened here, kind of like a more narrative kind of thing.
It's an interesting book and it's very short.
Okay.
Stop doing that, Frank. I don't know why. Like, since I moved the office, like, I'm in a different room than I used to be, right? I moved my office in a different room, and I I don't know why the dogs like just love pulling on the curtain for no good reason.
You want to be part of the show.
Now we know you have white walls, like a
there's a wall behind the curtain, and it's just like one, like, there's nothing behind between the curtain and the wall. I just want to be there.
Should go back to your pit.
Yeah. Anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point he's gonna lose interest. He's gonna figure out like, well, there's nothing there. Anyway, but like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, those characters, right? They need to be pushed more because they're not proactive character. They're people that. And like I said, that's the way most people live their life. People like
that's the way most people role play too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
they gotta get pushed
break
around.
away from that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're being
true.
told the story. You're just an audience member, and you're
Yeah.
waiting for the GM to tell you to roll some dice. And no, this happened.
Yeah,
Sorry,
why would I want to go back to that? What am I talking
long
about?
tangent. The Dungeon Minister, hello, Father Aaron. I asked a group who had been discussing next step for a while. So what do you think you should do? One of the player actually replied, "You're supposed to tell us, do that." No, I'm not. Yeah, man. Yeah.
I can
No.
imagine that. Yeah.
That's something that's someone that's been like broken. Like your character should have goals,
Yeah.
and he should be trying actively to pursue those goals.
Are you judging him right now, Max, for his white walls?
My
Right.
white walls.
I'm sorry. Are you judging him right now, Rick?
Oh no, heck no, no. I'm fine. He can have his white ones if he really wants.
Yeah, I'm renting here, so
It's a temporary place.
I'm just stuck with my house. I can paint them whatever I want.
also like even when I was I always like I don't put colors on my wall. I don't put decoration.
Yeah.
My place is like it looked like a fucking mental patient. It's like there's nothing
Yeah.
on the wall, and the
No.
wall are white, and there's very few little furniture.
Your TV tray and your
Yeah.
beanbag chair.
Yeah.
His gurney and his straitjacket.
A player push. These are not the droids types looking. These are
Well,
not the
that's
droid
he's
types
using
looking
his
for.
power. It's
Yeah, but that was a character.
if you consider him an NPC, or if you consider him,
Yeah, no. That was a character. Like Ben Kenobi should be a character.
Yeah, it's a good character.
Yeah.
Did we solve it?
Right. Did we solve it? I don't know.
Well,
Solve it
yeah.
with,
I just
what the chat has to say. Like I'm still
Oh, yeah.
trying to go back down because sometimes the chat have a good point, right?
What I'm curious to
Uh,
see, Rick, is if you wrote some pushes down in your notebook for your prep. Shadow of the Stars.
no, nothing. This was that was it. I didn't even write down that the ship was going to be torn apart.
Oh my
It was
God!
like-
So you just decided to tear it apart randomly?
It was I was thinking, there was several different things that I could possibly. I was just letting them congeal in my head, and it depends on what you guys do and how I'm kind of viewing this whole situation with your characters.
Yeah.
Kind of
that's
going, okay,
crazy.
maybe we're going to go with an alien's edge. No, let's let it delay a little bit, and we'll have the ship come apart. But I have reasons for it to come apart. You have several different characters written down here which work for different companies. So
Well,
all I did was write down a list of names, and I wrote a little, an N or an O or a V or an A, and those were like denoting which companies they work for, right? And I had no idea who you were going to wake up. I had no so Adam picked the character.
not many
that-
of them.
He pulled somebody out, and that was it. So it was.
Oh, that's cool.
I just go kind of by it's seat of the pants a lot of what I do. I have cool ideas that I want to kind of imagine in kind of a in a cinematic form, and that's all I'm going for is bringing in a cinematic. Oh, this event is happening. Letting you guys fly with that.
Well, it defined the entire game.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then I didn't have to
break the
play a
ship
big
in
list
half.
of NPCs,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a push does. It gets rid of any kind of unnecessary
Kills-
NPCs.
kills off
A
the
push
thing,
can be an exemplar of the might or power of maybe some alien god that you were encountering, and you just do what you want with the scene
I
and
know.
represent it to the players and let them
wanted to
inhale all
reply,
that information.
reply to this comment by Zonorar. Like he said, I feel like in end of session 6, when the Hydra showed up, it was a bad push. It was not telegraphed and made little sense in the universe why would it happen in that very moment. I think you're being too hard on yourself, because like we were hunting for this Hydra, and we went back to the place where we first encountered it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that was just like I assumed that it was like just the Hydra territory, right? We're probably like very close to her lair or some shit like that, or its lair. I don't know why I like feminize the Hydra. Probably say something about me.
You know why?
So you guys didn't feel at all that it was any kind of like a bad, timing kind
No.
of thing or
Well,
anything?
I
It
didn't-
felt
I didn't.
natural. Yeah.
I did. Yeah, I feel like it was like pretty reasonable. I feel like-
Zonalar, you've done your job. You did it perfectly. Don't judge yourself on what you expected.
Yeah.
Judge on how it turned out, basically, because you have no control over what the players do.
Enjoy
Elf
your
Hunter has a
Let
very
it,
good,
yeah.
Hmm.
Enjoy your freedom.
Elf Hunter got a very good comment there. I think a bad push is when it makes the game no longer about characters' goals. Of course, there's a sliding scale to it, but yeah, I would agree with that.
You can have pushes that may kind of, do that thing where you're trying to steer people into into where you want them to go, and you shouldn't do that. I don't think you should do that.
Yeah.
That's
Or
bad,
if
bad
it's
use.
too big and like now like we're gonna be distracted from what we're trying to achieve.
Literally
You know, like-
describing the
Yeah.
push you did here, Rick.
Well, no.
Take the ship half
You
by
know,
Put
the
a,
whole
put a
goal
hammer
is
on my goal.
well, it's an impedance to it. The ship, you guys still have the rest of the ship there, so. And Crispy's grabbing for that goal. He wants to chase
That's
that
true.
ship down and complete his mission. That's his thing.
I think I'm trying to do that too. Kind of forgot.
Would that be the right time?
I,
Like
I
when?
changed my goal to survive. So
Yeah, I think when the characters no longer have a clear goal, then you need a push.
yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I changed my goal. I kind of threw out my goal and was going into serious casualty mode, trying to save as many lives as I can and live.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
extreme.
that's what I
And
said.
I thought, and I'm not trying to say yes, it was bad. I'm trying to say it was awesome because that was a
Yeah.
really cool moment.
I think it went well with the headbutting thing that was going on. Now, what are these
Yeah.
characters going to do with this thing going on? It's
Yeah.
a disaster movie, the Poseidon Adventure, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like what Elf Hunter said, like some adventure just about surviving, and that's fine. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what this one became for me.
Matt is bad was saying like, how about a nudge versus a push? Is there a difference? And I think that's an
Nudge.
interesting thing.
Would
Those be like would it be worth it to have different concept?
nudge?
A
Are
nudge.
you
Hmm?
are you giving a hint? Maybe a nudge is a hint. I don't know.
A nudge,
yeah.
a nudge. The way I would see it, if I were to make a distinction between those two, right? A nudge would be like a gentle push that push toward a character goal, right? That's like not necessarily a hint. Something can be happening, right? But it's gonna be related to what the character tried to achieve, right?
Right.
Like, oh, you're trying to figure out this, find out this bad guy. Well, he's also trying to find you, and now like there's some of his like minion coming after you, right? So
Right.
something happening there, but it's aligned with your goal.
Exactly.
Uh,
And it'll give clues for, you can drop clues in there for, maybe a message that was stamped with a certain seal, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, now we can track down whose seal this is. Well, it's
I don't know if it's worth having like the two different terms, but like that's something to consider. I think it's an interesting idea.
Maybe nudge is ignorable and pushes.
Oh, that's interesting too. That's an interesting distinction.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think they can all be ignored, really. If that's the player's prerogative is not to be interactive in the game.
Yeah, but like they can
But,
always be
yeah.
ignored. But like, would like a reasonable character, like a reasonable like human being, ignore them, right? Just like
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot would. A lot. In a lot of situations I see, a lot of times you would probably just go, I'm You're walking this way while this is happening.
Yeah, but let's say you're on a ship and the ship start to burn
Break
like
it
on
out.
fire, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or on a spaceship, and and then there's a hole in the hole, and the air is going off, right? Or you're just gonna fucking walk away, like it's you can ignore it, but the consequences are so obvious and
Right.
so dreadful that a reasonable person, competent person, wouldn't ignore it. Right?
Maybe he's cracking under pressure. Maybe he's just totally
Yeah.
going into his own world. It's so
Which-
traumatic.
That's interesting, but like a character, like a player doing that, I wouldn't considering that's him ignoring the event. He's reacting to the event.
You
a
see it in
different way.
Brazil, the movie
Yep.
Brazil at the
I love
very
this
end.
movie.
Yeah,
It's a great
and
movie.
that's he totally cracks at the very end,
Yep.
and you see his whole world is falling apart. He basically embraces his
Yep.
fantasy. It's wild.
Yeah,
Why
But
not put that in your game? Too.
but that's what I would say. Like that's still
That'd be
you,
great.
your character reacting to the push, right? You're not ignoring it. You're still reacting to the push in a way that you're not reacting to it, right? Just like,
Mhm.
but
I don't mean to alarm you guys, but I think it was a joke comment.
No, but it's everything's got to be explored anyways, right?
Yeah.
It's an intriguing comment.
Sorry if I'm misrepresenting to you. Mal is bad.
That's bad.
Let's see. I did write a bunch of crazy notes here. Kind of
Yeah,
like
go through them.
some of my thoughts. I mean,
Go to them. It's a free flow conversation here.
yeah. I mean, it just the reason why I would put in a push definitely be as a timer or some form of revelation kind of thing. To recall back from a previous situation, something comes in, like you're saying, the henchmen from the bad guys that they're trying to hunt down, and it's something that they've encountered time before. There's got to be a reason for these guys to show
So you
up.
would throw like a push to help,
It's
kinda help along a player that has forgotten an important detail or something.
I don't think it's more to make the world feel like it's still in motion while the players are still doing their things. You
Mhm.
want to make that illusion that the world is still, evolving. There's still the bad guy. He's still doing his things. Your nemesis. What's he up to? Oh, he's changed plans now, and you hear, through the grapevine, something, gives you a message that he's doing this now. That's kind of the hokey way that the 70s, and 80s movies would do it. But, or have the magic portal show them something, But, we prefer to kind of earn our things as we go along in our games, right? A little bit more than the hokey, 80s kind of thing. But a push can be entirely random, but it should make some sense in context of the environment. The environment should also be something you consider. You've got all kinds of disastrous kind of things that you can use with the environment. Caves,
Like
cave-ins.
the wolf attack was kind of random, right? But
Yeah.
it makes sense and he expressed something because also he expressed something about the world, right? Just like
A push should also relate to a character arc or background, or a response from characters' actions past, which we discussed. It should relate to an event played out in the past game session or something like that. That can also be added in. Something that's recent that once again, what Phil was saying, maybe to refresh a player's character's memory on something that they may have missed, that sort of stuff. Let's see. It'd be context, relatives, enemies, organizations of a region, its inhabitants, creatures of note, gods, leaders, all that kind of stuff. Those can all be pushes. All their heralds, all that kind of stuff can be pushes to the guy that you meet.
Like, you could have a push that feel like so fucking random that like you don't have to have the player grown, right? Just, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome. You know,
Don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be a good judge of what kind of genre you're doing as a game
Yeah.
master. You know, whatever it is that you're trying to create cinematically.
Yeah.
And I use that term loosely, of course. There are people out there that freak out when I say cinematic. You know, you're trying to get as close to what you would see in a movie as you possibly can in a role playing game, and that's all you're trying to do.
there's some comments I wanna go through that I
You're triggering me, Rick.
oh yeah,
Once you know you're triggering.
Sorry about that.
interesting.
Is a push different than a plot hook? Okay, well, I assign what's called like a plot upon my it's a plan, basically. A plan that my big bad guy or whatever it is. You know, I'll have a plan for him. All my NPCs, be it a monster or whatever, all have a plan. One could be just merely wanting to have food to eat, but it's got to have a plan. So I'll have a few things lined up like that.
I think the big difference between the push and the plot hook, right, is like we don't have like a plot plan.
Yeah, no, yeah,
it's like you said, like the NPCs have plans. They have things they want. They have goals. They have things they want to achieve, and the PCs the same thing, right? So the plot is what happened, right? So an NPC can do something, or something can happen based on the environment of the world. So that would be a push, and plot can stem from that, but it's not a plot hook in the sense that, oh no, I want the player, I'm trying to hook the player to do that, right? I'm sending something for the player to do because I want to drag them in one direction. It's not a pull, it's a push, right?
I think that because plot hook for as an example, there's a bounty board or something like that. You know, I would say that that's a push. Like, hey, there's a bounty board here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but the thing is that there's no there's no expectation from the GM, and that's the main thing. Whereas the plot hook typically in a 2D game is meant to signal to the players, okay, my story's this way, guys. And like players go, okay,
that's a great example, Phil, like you said with the bounty board, because like in the way you would do that, you would say like, oh, and there's a bounty board on the wall, and then you describe some other stuff, and then the player would say, oh, I'm gonna go look at this bounty board and read it, and then you would say something in a 2D game, right? You would have like player, like you have the GM saying, oh, this bounty board, there's a lot of bounty on them, and one is this and one is that, and start like giving information that the character didn't interact with, right?
We sure hope someone looks at that second bounty about the guys that attack our farms.
But like in the 4D game or the 3D game, you would just say there's a bounty board there, and we would just fucking ignore it.
Well, I'm kind of busy right now, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, all right, something else. I want to get in a bar fight right now, so I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, every player character, every player is different. Every player's character is different, so you don't know what to expect out of especially when you got the first session going together. So you do kind of prepare some kind of loose kind of pushes to kind of help.
Yeah, maybe those are nudges. That'd be a good nudge.
Beginnings are a few
ignorable
nudges.
Bounty boards.
Yeah.
But it's like if the bounty board isn't a wasted thing, because there's probably, or there may be, a character that's like, I really want to make a lot of money, and for a reason X or whatever, and so they will be like, oh, good, we're gonna check the bounty board.
Even if nobody interact with a bounty board, it's not a wasted thing, because the fact that there's a bounty board there says something about the world.
Yeah, that there are men at arms around.
Exactly, right? There's trouble around. Criminals, bounty hunter, stuff like that. It adds a flavor
to be made.
Yeah, it gives a good flavor, even if they just kind of just glean it and go, oh, okay.
Even if nobody interact with it at all, nothing is read from the bounty board. We have no clue what's on it.
Yeah,
it tells us something about the world.
And sometimes the GM doesn't have any clue what's on it when he says there's a bounty board.
And then you regret it when somebody interact with it.
Simi-
Oh man, I didn't expect anybody to. We're some fucking asshole. I play with those games all the time. I play with those guys all the time. They would never interact with a bounty board, but now they do.
Now they want to complete the 6 things on the bounty board. I didn't even say there were 6 things. They just made me put 6 things. Yeah.
Are you
Aid
talking
worker
about like making
loading
the
water.
world alive outside the player experience? Because he was
A
asking
little
about
bit.
like the what the push he like call me Mr. Chainmail. And okay, Mr. Chainmail. So Mr. Chainmail was saying earlier in the comment that he missed the start of the stream. Like we talk about the push or thing that happened in the game
Yes.
that kind of like move the things along, right?
This is a bit of a topic in our space of 4D, where we've talked about the idea of pushing actions, or I guess events into your game if the tempo has dropped or something, versus just allowing players to be proactive and generate pace at their own pace.
And speaking of which, there was a good comment there.
But I would say Rick is describing pushes as being an important tool that you can use to demonstrate a living world, for sure.
Might is bad. One was saying, maybe I'm understanding wrong, but the GM's role is almost entirely reactionary, reacting to the PC's action. But a push is the GM, perhaps suddenly becoming proactionary.
Procactionary. I just wanted to say it
Procactionary.
as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I cannot
It's
really
not
know that.
It's not procac.
Procactionary.
Proactive.
Yeah.
Proactive, yeah.
That's how I see it too. That's how I see push.
That's how I
as
see it
being
as
a
well.
Proactive GM.
Yeah, you got to be events of the world. You have to have the sun coming up. You have to have the sun going down, and everything in between.
But dude-
Or the rain and all that other stuff.
Yeah, but like, yeah, and there's something like, well, and that's also like, there's some system in the world like that are established that running themselves, and the NPCs have their own goals. So I wouldn't see that as like that's the NPC being proactive. The push, yes, I would see is in a sense the GM being proactive when you bring something that is unprompted.
Yeah.
And sometimes it cannot just be like, oh, there's a thunderstorm bursting up, right? That's also that it can be as simple as that.
Yeah, usually I'll have something that prompts something like the thunderstorm happening, but I won't make it evident. It could be a dragon, a blue dragon. That could be it's stuff. I kind of think obscurely, like
the water cycle,
dislocating.
Yeah, just like the cloud and like the sky is starting to get
sometimes
dark.
Sometimes I use the water cycle, Rick. Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
A door.
Comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kingmaker was saying like, I'm gonna send you a nice Guinness pint glass. Don't bother because I'm still gonna drink from the can. It doesn't make any dishes.
He's
right?
not putting the pint glass in his pocket when he's walking anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing too, right? And also like I cannot own glass because I always break them.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to own glass for a long
It's probably
time.
illegal in Canada because you might stab somebody or something.
No, we're not in England. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So another say, if all the problem neatly wait in line until you solve the previous one, the game isn't nearly as exciting and feel like the world is waiting for the PC to get on with it before it keeps turning.
I agree.
Yes,
That's why
I agree as well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, go ahead. No
I was
problem.
going to say, I
go
think
piss.
that is what is leading me more towards the pushing, because the push style, because like what Max is saying, it's like I don't want to speak for him because he's pissing or whatever, but basically it sounds like he doesn't want a push if he's already busy or he finds that
Right.
not desirable. But I kind of like that because it gives you those hard choices. Like everything's
things
blowing up
interesting.
around me. I need to pick an avenue. I think that's awesome. I think it's one of the benefits of hectic pushes.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's tone. It's tone.
yeah,
So if the
exactly.
tone-
Yeah.
If the tone calls for it, then do it.
I didn't know if you guys, in our Shadow of the Stars game, I didn't know if you guys were gonna just do this like an exploration Star Trek-y kind of thing. I was kind of seeing how, but with the animosity between the players that was brewing up, and the way that things were set up, and it was like, no, this is disaster movie material. I have to come up with those decisions kind of like at the moment.
That's crazy to me that you prepped a roster of guys, and you randomly determined like what companies they're rooting for, and then
right.
because of what Alex did, you picked this company because it was this guy that he picked. Like
Right,
that's
right.
fucking
That's
awesome.
Now keep in mind, I kept all that information for Crispy's character when he took it over. So now he's acting in the motivations of that.
So you had to
But
inform
he's
him
also-
a little bit.
What's that?
You had to inform him a little bit of
I had barely given him any notes. He's taken his character to a whole new level. So
I'm
I
sure
said,
you
okay.
didn't make him a germaphobe. I'm sure he did that on his own.
Crispy is so wonderful that he can take a character and put so much interest into it that when you watch it, it becomes a full on like entity on its own.
I agree.
I'm back.
While you were gone, I
The-
spoke for you.
Yes, and I'm like it's like I don't want to, like I'm okay with some push sometimes that like come and disturb my goals, right? But it's there. You need to be like some kind of measure, right? It cannot be too much because at some point you just feel like too random, and it feel like the world start losing its verisimilitude.
And I would say it kind of disrupts the story. Now, I know we're not trying to get a story, but there is a story, right? So
I think it's gonna make
kind of
like
a strange story.
we often say like the story is what happened, right, in past tense.
Yeah.
And if you put too much push, it's gonna be a less interesting story in the end.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be like, it's like sometimes like you're trying to like if there's nothing coming in the way that getting into your way, right? And I want to do this. I want to go to the McDonald's, and then okay, you get there and you get your food, and you can eat it, and it was awful, and then you can leave and go back home.
Yeah,
that's a boring story, right? Something needs to happen during that, disturb.
Throw an
If there's
alligator
no conflict,
in there.
if there's no conflict, there's no drama.
Put an alligator in the drive-through.
Yeah,
the
snake in
desert?
the punch bowl, whatever.
Yeah. One of those sand alligator.
With a speed.
Or even better, somebody spikes the punch.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exciting.
Suddenly
So-
everybody's seeing elves and dwarves popping out of the woodworks.
Yeah. It's turned into an isekai.
Mr. Chenmel said it. That makes a lot of sense. I have had games die because I took my hand off the wheel to see where the player would go, and the player just stopped doing anything without giving the direction. That's also like sometimes you have to remember your player, like your character should have goal, and you should be proactive in reaching those goals, right? It's also like a skill issue.
And a lot of players have had the role play beaten out of them, so they won't do anything proactive unless it's kind of like been allowed by the game master. So they're stuck in that kind of mindset. So sometimes they'll have a hard time trying to let go of that. So.
Yep. I mean, that's an important part of Session Zero, especially with new 40 players.
Vetting. You start vetting them, and you start working out those kinks out of their minds.
Vetting, but if you're doing like an in-person game, and I mean, we always say vet your players, but at the same time, like, I don't know if it's Rick. I mean, you're trying to play with your kids, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Like, Crispy's got his old crew,
yeah,
and he's trying to train them. I mean, it's a thing.
Trying to train my cats.
Trying to train your cat before you
get the cats to roll the dice for you.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they
session
really
zero
like
is really
playing with
important to
furniture.
kind of session zero is really important to kind of describe those like basic.
Yeah.
You're proactive. You have goals. I'm not going
Yes.
to force you to do anything.
I'm not gonna move your character. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people use
Exactly.
those random tables. Like,
Yeah, I was about to read that. Alpha
Um,
it's I know it's unnecessary, but sometimes I like rolling to see if I do a push or not. Random tables, roll between faction, etc. All in moderation, of course. So I want to
You
have
got
your
table, go for it if that's
take
what
on that.
works for you. Yeah. I just have a list of ideas that I just generate as the players are playing, and I'm gaining information from them. I'm learning what they think of these people, that people. I'm listening to you guys, and that's the key. You got to listen a lot.
So you
know?
don't use those random table at all, right?
No.
I would
What
say
about you, Phil?
I don't use random tables, but I like them. It's mainly because I'm lazy. But I would say a random table is a really good way to get an environmental push. And I
Yeah.
like what you said, Elf Hunter, where you just like if there are factions, you just list them on a table, and if you're gonna push, you could roll a faction to determine which one's going to be interacting today or something like that. Or you could probably do that with your players too if you wanted to be like tied to a player, maybe throw your antagonist on that list as well. So it could be like, boom, this guy's push, or this is the antagonist push. But I'm probably just doing it in my head.
That's usually what I do. Like I like random table in books
Mhm.
because I like to read them, but it's more like
Me too.
seed for idea. Like I read
Yes.
them, I internalize them,
Mhm.
and then like when I need a push, I can just like think back on this random table, the thing that spoke to me, or and pick one random, and I don't necessarily roll a die to get
Yeah.
something random in my head. It's like semi-random, I guess.
Yeah, I guess if you just look at the list and go, this one.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's probably better.
That's how I like to use a random table.
Yeah. I glean a lot off of random tables, and it's just I just pick and choose from, or gather an idea from just reading those things. Same as Max.
Yeah.
I probably am evil, but I like to keep the idea of a story structure in my head, and I use that to inform reactive things. So like Act 1 things, Act 2 things, Act 3 things. So I imagine like a table. I think I can do a better job making a better game if I use my own brain than a die roll can. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's evil. I don't.
Might be evil.
I don't do it myself, but that doesn't mean something is evil because I also do a lot of evil stuff.
That's the only time I let myself be evil.
An aid worker loading water says those usernames are not, maybe it's a good maybe it's good to think of it in terms of hugging the spotlight. You as the GM get to role play the world to players rather than being every NPC, just like the thief sometimes has to let the warrior open the door.
Okay.
Hogging
the spotlight.
You get to role play the world rather than being every NPCs. Well, you're kind of both as a GM.
Yeah.
What is that? What are we thinking? What is he referring to? You think?
I don't know.
Did a game master feel like he's
talking about like what do you think of simulationist approach? There's an evil empire over there, and it's going to act against the party. We don't know how they're connected to the stuff they're dealing with.
Yeah.
I like the simulationist approach in the sense that I believe that the number one priority of the GM is to preserve the verisimilitude of the world. That's also sometimes like why I'm worried about the push, because too much push can break verisimilitude. Because now you feel like the world is just like conspiring against the player, the people, the
really good point.
PCs in them.
Right.
That is the drawback for sure.
If you're a game master, you still have to abide by the rules, I think, of metagaming. So
Yep.
if you know that the players didn't give any clues that they're going to a certain location, you should not, have your NPC
point.
bad guys who are hunting these, automatically intercept them. Because that's,
Good
Yeah.
point. Unless
Um,
it's justified somehow, right? Just obviously.
I mean, if they're role playing well and they're doing the we're sneaking through the forest kind of thing and doing all that thing and they're doing awesome rolls or their checks and whatever it is, don't punish them with a they found you out, but I only did it because of the push.
Yeah.
That would suck for the players.
Yeah, that's true. So like if you're deciding to do an arch or like an antagonist push or whatever, it's kind of contrived. But I would say, the other side of the coin of Verismiltude is we believe in not doing exposition, right? So
Yeah.
you have to show the world off like in ways. So like there will be environmental proactive things happening to you because you need to know what the world is like and you need to know what this faction's like. Like that is a responsibility of the GM to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So I would
I definitely outline all of my NPCs. I outlined all the major factions, whatever that we came up with in session 0. That way, their goals, their plan, so that you don't have to ever reference anything on your sheets or anything anymore. You can free flow what your ideas are.
you want to tell them all the bad guys' plans on session 0. Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
No.
You're saying tell them all the factions' plans in session 0?
No. I'm just saying, but just go ahead and make sure that you have like your NPCs all lined up with their plans after session 0,
okay.
so you can kind of have a, and that's the only thing I ever work on is that and the rewards. Those are the only two things that really the players are worried about in the game master's end, where the environment that they fight these things in tend to be what the players, wherever they're at, is going to be, wherever this encounter is going to be with these guys. So that's where I leave it.
I remember in your prep video, you kind of talked about like, I'm going to be in the desert. I'm going to write down
all the different interesting desert things that you can come up with or that you search up on the internet. What's an interesting, you can see all these like, these overpass things that you see on Wile E. Coyote, runner kind of stuff. You just write down all these things. So
I don't know if those are pushes, but yeah,
they're not pushes, but they're just flavor, flavor that you can sprinkle on because you're sketching everything out, and then you're kind of focusing in what the players are focusing in on. It's found from there.
A Shai Hulud is a push.
A Shai Hulud is a push. Like a
storm. Yeah.
Yeah, is a push.
Storms,
Quicksand.
Yeah.
Would be a push.
All that stuff.
What are you saying about Phil, about we don't do info dump, right? So you need to do exposition in some way. So push can come handy for that. But also think about movies. The good movies, right? When they used to make them.
We're thinking about vastly different things right now.
Like Mad Max. Say the very not the first one, but the second one. Where
not the first one.
The second one, where he's kind
of like the first one. I'm kidding. Sorry. Go ahead.
I know, but the second one is set up that you're seeing the world through the eyes of Max's character, and you're learning that he's not really that good, but you kind of feel that inkling in him to be, to be a good guy, but he has to survive. So you're getting fed all this, cool information about him. I think,
But that's what I'm about to say, right? You know, it's like that you have like this thing of environmental storytelling, and also like NPCs gonna react to the world and stuff like that. But and sometimes like they're gonna just say something about the world, and it's gonna explain every little detail, right? You know, like we often say, like, you know, watching the movie explain the movie, right? When the movie is well
Yeah.
made, right? You're just like you sit there and you watch the movie, and sometimes you don't really exactly get everything's happening right now, but it's gonna come up being explained a bit more later, or you get it enough, right? Oh, okay, there's some kind of guild of smuggler, I guess, right? Just like
Mhm.
I don't know exactly their code and what they're about and how many of them there are. It doesn't matter in the moment, right?
Mhm.
And if it comes to matter more, there's gonna be an NPC at some point, and you say like, "Oh, there are no like 2,000 of those smuggler around, right?" It's like they bolster the number by 10 times. Now, okay, I knew they used to be about 200, and now like they're 2,000, right? Just like there you go.
Yeah.
It's not an expo dump, like it's like in a conversation or something, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's something we can learn from movie, right? Like playing the game, explain interacting with the world, explain how the world works, right?
Yeah. And
Have
you
your
get session 0 also. Doesn't
like
always.
like
Yeah, and you
Crispy
have
does.
Session Zero.
Yeah, like Crispy does with his character. He kind of expounds like little bits of information. Do that with your NPCs. You know, expound.
Yeah.
You know, they can definitely give a little bit of information from what they're wearing and stuff like that. You can really play with that.
Yeah.
No info dump needed.
Did we reach the? Did we cover the subject of push? Do we have like conclusion to do on that?
I think
Yeah.
that we think different things still.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is-
we do, and I think that's good because I think 4D shouldn't be.
Why don't we do a
Anytime.
round robin of what we all think about pushes?
Yeah. You
I
want to
think
go
good
ahead?
or
Start.
no? You want me to start? Is that okay? I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut off Rick.
No, we're going to start, and we're going to in counterclockwise.
Okay,
We're gonna find a wall.
I think pushes should depends on tone. So tone will inform how you push, and the
Mhm.
characters as well will inform if you should push at all, really, or how you should push. Pushes should reinforce tone and help you with pacing. And if you want, I guess pacing is part of tone. I think doing it occasionally is probably good. I think it's good. And if you want to use a story structure, it's almost like there's pre-planned pushes in there. You got one at the end of Act 1. You got one sort of around Act 2 where it flips the conflict on its head. Then you got the false ending, and then So I would say that's a good roadmap if you wanted to do it. That's all I got. I probably have more, but I don't care.
I entirely agree with what you're saying there, Phil.
All right.
Yeah, totally. But at the same time, I'm also the game master that usually, brings forth something out of his head right in the middle of the session too, so to make things interesting. So I just view it as a little bit more free form, than something that I would strictly write down. So I do keep those free form ideas as possible pushes, because sometimes I surprise myself, and I like to do that, surprise myself with what I come up with from what you guys say, and which is magic. But at the same time, any event, any NPC, I view it all as pushes. It's just something to ramp up the action or bring some sort of pressure upon the players that it starts, creating the headbutting incidences start becoming more real, and the more intensity can be something that maybe that's what the players are looking for in a game. And I'll bring that to it. So
Yeah.
I'm more action oriented as far as I feel in what I want in game mastering a game, but it depends on the players too. So I have to be at the whim of them. So I try to introduce them as where I can, where it makes sense.
I agree
Yeah.
with what you're saying too, Rick. So maybe I don't know.
Yeah. What I would say, what I would say about push, it's like obviously I think like you can sometimes use push. I think like be wary about like using too much of them because like you can rob the opportunity for your player to be proactive. If you always use too much push, they're always going to be reactive to the world, right? And they won't be able to pursue their own goal. They're always going to be pushed around. You don't want them to be pushed around by the world. They want them to impose their own will in the world, especially with the push that are off axis of their goals, of their character goals. I guess that would be the big distinction to make, right? So things that are like pushing them in a different direction, then you can push them against their goal or toward their goal. Those are usually fine. When you push them in a different direction, off axis push. That's the term that's the term I'm coining now.
Nice.
Then those can be like frustrating at some point because you never get to achieve anything. You never get to get some resolution to your goals. But yeah, use them with parsimony, and yeah, read the room like Rick was saying earlier, right? Get the vibe of what the player trying to do. Let them time to cook if they want, right? If they're like a slow burn kind of people, and when they are aimless, or sometime even when they have a goal that they want to achieve but they're lost and they don't know what to do next, what to work toward their goal, then it's good time for pushes.
Yeah. Can we round robin it one more time?
Yes.
I would say I 100% agree with Max as well. So what the hell's going on here?
Everybody's right.
If you, because we're all about the reactive GM and the proactive player. I think pushes are a proactive GM move, and you shouldn't rob the player. But if you are going to interrupt the player with a push, then it should be a correction in tone, I would say. I think that is the GM's responsibility to maintain the tone of the game.
Cool. Good choice of words there. I think that's that's good.
Yeah. Like in the Hell game.
Yes.
I should throw blood-sucking mosquitoes at you while you're trying to make a fire or something.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't expect anything less of you.
Yeah.
In that situation.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know what you could have done.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what you could have done differently in the L game because there was like those characters that were really like action oriented.
Well, I'm saying in the hypothetical game that I wanted to play, that didn't happen.
No, but
it would have involved like a lot of environmental pushes to fuck with you guys.
You had a tone in mind, right? And I don't know if you just told me individually because I got the tone what you were going for. I understood what you're going for.
Yeah, I think I just told you. That's why.
But maybe we just like weren't just like talking at some point. So
it was a session.
I came up with a very different character and a very different attitude in that game.
Yeah.
But if you have characters that are very like
survivor on a hell plan.
Yeah. If you had those characters that were very like, oh, we're gonna solve that. We've been sent to this prison planet, and we're gonna solve that issue right now. Yeah. Right? There's a way out right now. We're gonna go fight those guys and stuff like that, right? But they basically threw their life away. That's what happened.
Which was a lesson in hell.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I like the idea that that pushes the cost of the push is the independence of your world and the independence of like a separate from what the player characters are doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
No.
So if you can somehow keep that independence of that simulation going while doing a push, then that's a great push.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, what Daryl say here is a good point. When something seems off axis at first, it can later be found that there is a relevant connection to the player goals. Yeah, finding this sort of events can be satisfying. Yes, you can wrap it around at some point.
Can later be
That's a good point.
found, not
Exactly.
just totally made up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Phil,
wow. That was really clever, GM. Thank you.
Phil, did you add a secondary topic you wanted to touch real quick, or you want to keep it for some other day?
I'd rather keep it for a different day, but I have another topic I'd like to talk about.
You want to tease it, and then we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. So Dragonheart, I think after the Dragon or Daggerheart.
Daggerheart.
After the Daggerheart game, we can.
Daggerheart.
We could really.
Is that a movie? That's a movie.
It
right?
is a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, the idea is, I have no idea.
Sorry.
The idea is how much meta knowledge in your head is too much. So, like, when you're always thinking about, okay, I got to keep this tone. Okay, these are all the rules. I need to do this amount of co-creation is enough. This amount isn't good enough. Like, you have all these like restrictions in your head floating around. At some point, that's got to detract away from the immersion in your character and in the world.
That's interesting.
Because you have part of your brain out of character at all times.
Yeah.
So what is too much? That's really.
It's almost like a question of crunch as well, right? It's like a
crunch is that's why Easy D6 is so awesome.
Yeah, it'd be part of it. That what Zonal would refer to as the mental bandwidth.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. We can talk about that some other time, some other day. I don't know when. You should subscribe and ring the bell. So you
probably after the conclusion of this Daggerheart game is what I'm imagining. Because that's
definitely something that came up during Daggerheart, right? We talked about that after the last game. That at some point, like, I'm trying to think what my character can do, and it's taking me away from my
And I'm noticing also I think the main reason I'm disliking it, I feel like I'm doing a poor job, is because I'm not respecting tone as much, and I know that's why I keep talking about tone. Is because I'm like thinking about the system where I'm not thinking about like world verisimilitude and tone, and keeping that stuff at the front of mind as a GM, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's gonna be a topic for another day.
Yep.
F1 Thursday, you guys are excellent about discussing role-play theory. It's always a pleasure to watch and comment on this stream. Well, I'm glad you watch, and Matt is bad approve. I'm glad. Thank you guys for watching. Obviously, there wouldn't be.
Oh, and I told Rick and Crispy that they had to do a stream about teaching their real-world groups how to 4D role play.
Oh boy. Well, we'll find out how that actually goes when it comes up to Wednesday.
All right. Thank you, Phil, for joining me, and Rick for joining me tonight for this conversation. I think it was an interesting one. And I hope it was useful to some people at home. They're going to give them something to think about, and their own style and stuff like that. Like, it's fine that we can have a different style as well, right? And different tone and stuff like that. And you find groups that mesh with that. And sometimes also you change the style from game to game. And that's interesting, and it keeps things fresh. So thank you guys for joining me. And thank you for the people that watch live and join us in chat. And thank you for the people that going to watch on the replay. I'll see you next time, which I don't know when it's going to be. Next Thursday, we're going to have the next Daggerheart game.
Yep. We're canceling our Monday game, right?
Just for a moment until Adam gets back. But in the meantime, we might start up something new with that.
Session 0 maybe on Monday. I don't know. We'll talk about
it. We can talk about it. Yep.
Which is tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So maybe something tomorrow.
Maybe.
Right. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna end the stream. You're gonna have like a bit of a video playing at the end there. and you should pay to that. And I don't know why I'm
Thanks,
playing this video,
Max.
to be honest, because it's not gonna be useful to my usual audience. But maybe it's useful if you want to share it with your group. You can also find this video on my channel on its own. Anyway, take care, guys. See you next time. Have a good night.
God bless.
Hello guys, Mr. Max here with a new challenge for you today. And this one is going to be the in-character roleplay challenge. I came up with this idea watching DM Bloodward's video when he's doing a breakdown of the Dagger Art role-playing books, right? When they, in the section where they talk about the flow of the game and how role-playing games should be played. And they do a pretty bad job at it. Basically what they explain is that it should all be out of character question, like so much out of character question. They have example like the player asking the GM, how many guard is there on the other side of the door, or can I jump across this gap safely, right? And that's the challenge I want to send to you out there today, is to cut out those out of character question. And obviously this is a challenge more for the people that are not in my usual circle, because those are already trying to do that. So make sure to share this video far and wide so people can see it. Like, I want to see like people, like, you know, people in Critical Role if they want to try it. Like, but people that post actual play of their session, or people that just play, you just play at home, right? Try this out, right? What do? So you stay in character during the session. What does that mean? You cut out the out of character question. There's no GM out there in the world to ask question. If you want to get information about the world, you have to interact with the world. So you want to know how many guards there are on the other side of the door? What can you do for that, right? Describe what your character does. I go to the door, I put my ear against the door, and I listen and try to count how many different voices I can recognize. Or I try to peek to the keyhole, right? Tell us what your character does to gather that information. Can I jump across the gap safely? Who are you asking that, right? Say I move to the gap and I look down. I try to evaluate how much damage I would take from the fall. I look how far the gap is. I look back, how much of a running start I can get, right? You describe what your character does, and the GM should pick up on that. That's a challenge for both GM and players, and provide you the information. The GM is there to do this narration and say what is in the world, like how the world is. But your job as a player is to tell us what your character does, right? What your character is, what your character does, what your character says. Another thing to cut, stop asking the GM, can I do this? Can I do that? Especially if you have a GM like Matt Mercer, that is always going to answer with the same way. Oh, you can certainly try, right? The people in Critical Role, I've been asking for a year, Matt Mercer, can I do this? And they got the same answer for a year. At some point, they should pick up on it, right? And stop asking and just try it. Just do what you want to do, right? He's going to tell you can try anyway. The other thing, no testing, no test driving your turn. So, no asking, oh, what would happen if I were to do that? What would be the outcome, right? Oh, what if, hypothetically, right? Like, no hypothetical. You want to know what something's going to happen if you try it? Try it and live with the consequence, right? Try to cut off the out of character jokes. I know though we're all here to have fun, but we're also here to play a game. And try to minimize the mechanical talk, right? There's always going to be some talk about mechanics because we're playing a game, but try to cut them out as much as you can. Try that for a few sessions and see how it feels, right? Does your game goes faster? Can you do more in a session? Are you more immersed? Do you really miss the constant out of character talk, like all those little questions? I hope to see other people try that and let me know how it goes. And I hope you're going to find that it's a new and better way to play those games. Like I said, make sure to share this video so it can go far and wide, so people from that are not already converted can see it. And I hope that many gonna try the in-character roleplay challenge. Take care, guys.